Fire Mage is so cool. Look at all the damage I'm doing, man.
Hell yeah, let's keep it frosty. Alright, I'll be cool. Just chill.
Stop it. Get some help.
If you aren't here for the flavor of the month punchlines, you must be here because you want to know what the hell is up with Frost Mage breaking the meters. Well, my friend, you came to the right place. We will check the talents, Azerite stats, rotation, and more, so you can pick up Frost Mage quick and prepare for that Shadowlands release with style. Not much changed for Frost actually. As opposed to our channel, hell yeah, it's a massive help if you subscribe and enable those notifications. We have been doing tier lists and add-ons videos, and although we will get back to class guides once the season starts, we will always have other cool stuff we make that surprisingly doesn't get sent out to everyone. Not sure what that is all about, YouTube algorithm. But enough about that. All classes went through one pruning, and some of it will rarely find a place on your bars. Fire Blast is instant, sure, and Arcane Explosion has no target cap, but really, only Mirror Image seemed to be a button you would be pressing in any case. It offers a slight DPS increase, but more than that, it gives a 20% damage reduction while active. And if you do take direct damage, you consume one of the images. Between cold snapping your defensives and now mirror image, with soon to be gained altered time, the defensive kit makes shamans and ferals as salty as the US presidential elections. What, too soon? There is a point to be made about Arcane Intellect. Now it offers only 5% intellect down from 10%, which is the same for all class buffs. And although not really a change since drums will only give 15% haste now, Time Warp is more valuable if at any point you were interested to make sure you got into groups. With the mastery stack going away, Frost seems a bit, well, normal. You can still play the big glacial spikes build, although without heavy mastery stacking, it doesn't seem to perform as well. As such, let's keep it simple for the pre-patch and go with Lonely Winter on the first row. Since you will not be skipping on casting Icelands and most of your shadows will be of Frost Bolts, this talent will shine in the darkness. If you want to play Glacial Spike, then Bone Chilling will be a better choice here. It's hard to sim now in pre-patch and the classes are not designed to be balanced at level 50. Next up is really up to you. Shimmer is still probably, maybe, supposedly superior. You won't have to break your cast to dodge a mechanic with proper positioning. On the 30th row, with the new changes, take Rune of Power. The changes mainly refer to Icy Veins also popping a Rune of Power under your feet. Because of that change, Rune of Power only has one charge now and should be used on cooldown. Not to mention that even after the alleged fix, if your Icy Veins is procced, you still get a Rune of Power under your feet. It's a bug, it's not consistent, but it does happen. On the level 35 row, take Chain Reaction. Icelands is back on the menu and coupled with Lonely Winter, its damage is real. Not to mention that when Shadowlands releases, it will pump even more. For the Glacial Spike, Ebon Ball can be a good choice. For me, personally, it felt like a waste sometimes, since you want to shatter spikes instead of Ebon Balls, but who knows after the new Frost changes. The level 40 row is again utility based and down to personal preference, mostly because you have to take advantage of whatever you pick, otherwise your pick is useless. It adds a stronger slow to your spells, which is passive and assists your tank with kiting. On the 45 row, Splitting Ice is still king. Not only will your Icelands and Icicles do more single target damage, but in cleave scenarios it will smash hard. We mentioned before Iceland's damage with all the talents it's getting, and seeing as how most content has more than one target to hit, this should prove pretty useful. Although as of recording this, nerfs have been announced to Splitting Ice and Iceland's base damage. Comet Storm and Freezing Rain will be slightly buffed to make the row more competitive, so stay tuned. With the current setup, Thermal Void will be the ideal choice on the last row. It synergizes with the full build, and with Icelands being a central part of your rotation, it will be a big plus. With the nerfs coming to it, however, it could make Glacial Spike become better again. Don't get me wrong, Glacial Spike is mechanically superior in terms of fun on the entire row, but we have been playing it the entirety of BFA, so who knows, maybe Ray of Frost can take the cake soon. The Shatter passive essentially dictates, at least as much as a point of reference goes, what stats you should be aiming for. Critical Strike until you reach 33.33% will make sure that all your Shadowed spells have a 100% crit chance. After this, get Haste and Versatility, with Mastery lower and the rest of the crit at the very bottom. The reason you want crit so specifically is because when a spell is shattered, it has 1.5 times your crit chance plus an additional 50%. If baseline you are sitting at 33.33%, then that would make it 100% when doing the shatter combo, which we will go over in a second, don't worry. So as such, your consumables will be either crit or haste based on that stat priority you just saw. For the sake of the video, we will assume you are starting out, so go with the Machinist Brilliance for your weapon. It's one of the two best enchants, supplies you with secondary stats which help when having lower gear. Follow it up with Accord of Critical Strike and Deadly Lava Lazuli for your generic enchants and gems. Use the Greater Flask of Endless Phantoms and eat the McDowell's Big Mech for your buff consumables. And it goes without saying that once you have enough crit, replace all of these, except in the weapon and flask, with their haste equivalents. Since there are currently two builds right now, with the Glacial Spike seeing potential spikes by the time this video goes live, let's check some of the Azerite you can use. For the Thermal Void, simply go with one Frigid Grasp, one Whiteout, one Packed Ice, and fill in with Hearts of Darkness. Otherwise, duplicates can also work. Raw stats traits seem to be the more popular at the moment, and considering how everything scales, stats are one of the strongest choices you can make regarding most things. For the Glacial Spike build, the traits are what you have been using prior to the pre-patch, meaning Flash Freeze, stacked. Although we haven't talked a lot about this, it's so consistently strong for Frost Mage that mentioning the trinkets seems mandatory. One of them should be the best unused trinket that can boost your stat. Right now, Manifesto of Madness seems to be the one, while the other, weirdly enough, it will be the inscription-crafted Highborn Compendium of Storms. Yep, an 8.2 trinket. Or is it older? And moving on to Essences, the difference in raids versus Mythic Plus is minor, literally. For raiding, have Vision of Perfection Major. This will give you procs of Icy Veins, works fantastically with Thermal Void and indirectly with Rune of Power. Use Crucible of Flame as your minor alongside Conflict and Strife and Essence of the Focusing Iris for the haste. Memory of Lucid Dreams can also replace Iris when fighting more targets for those icicles, generating some extra damage. In Mythic Plus scenarios, Vision will still be your major, with Crucible of Flame and Conflict and Strife your minors. You can opt out for Purification Protocol as your last minor or Blood of the Enemy if you manage to get it in 8.2 or 8.3. Since it's hard and unreliable to sim in pre-patch, you can test both options out or even more things and see what works best for you. The opener is simple and hasn't changed, like most of the rotation. Pop Icy Veins before the pull, and follow it up with Frostbolt. Launch your Frozen Orb. Continue casting Frostbolts and recast Rune of Power once the one from Icy Veins goes away. That's it. But what about those procs and what is the Shatter mechanic? Well, if you are new to Frost, Shattering basically means using your passives and procs to guarantee a spell to critical strike. One thing to remember is that frost spells have travel time, and you can manipulate that to squeeze and shatter as many spells as possible, and this happens when you get the Brain Freeze proc. Once you do, start casting a Frostbolt, then launch the Flurry and instantly follow it up with 2 Ice Lances. That essentially means you shattered your Frostbolt and the 2 Ice Lances. The reason this works this way is that after you finish casting Frostbolt, Flurry will hit the target faster and apply Winter's Chill. Thing is, Flurry has 3 hits each refreshing Winter's Chill, hence why the 2 Ice Lances afterwards will be shattered as well. All of these have to be casted in quick succession while you are at a reasonable distance from your target to take advantage of the travel time animation. If you play Ebon Bolt or Glacial Spike, you replace Frostbolts with either of those 2 so you can shatter them. Outside you managing the procs, Brain Freeze first and Fingers of Frost second, the priority is fairly simple. Kind of like a rogue, you try to generate procs by casting Frostbolts, and once you get them, consume them as soon as possible with a priority to the Brain Freeze, aka Flurry Shatter combo. In AoE, you simply cast Frozen Orb, Blizzard, and Arcane Explosion on cooldown. Nothing too complicated there. But of course, this is the simple version of the Frost Mage, to get you started, you know? Malon made a more detailed article on Wowhead about Frost Mage on pre-patch, and the Alter Time Discord has multiple sections and pinned comments with cheat sheets and tips for being a better mage. Not to mention, the people there are legit mages, so anything you want to know more and improve, hit them up. A massive thank you to our Patreons who make all our content possible, all the weekly class guides, the tier list videos, podcast, news, and much more to come once Flame is fully operational again. If you want to join the Patreon team, check the link in the description. Alongside the merch, our Twitch, cannot forget about all our Twitch family. We do stream 5 days per week, although a bit harder recently with Flame's health, but we're getting back into that. Thanks for watching the video. Stay safe.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.